Oh, there you are already.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you in person. I mean, not
You
in person, but
oh,
your
as
face.
close as we can in person. Ah, so nice to have you here. Thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
Ah, um, well, all the work you've done with Mel Bonis, I thought you would be the perfect person to delve a little bit into.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, it sometimes takes a few minutes for people to join in, or maybe watch after the fact. But welcome to you who are here. I may not be clicking on wave because I still don't have quite the right setup. And if I touch my phone, the whole thing could just fall over. I should do a behind the scenes shot sometime. It's quite silly how I have it set up. Anyway, so welcome. And let's dive right in and start. If you could tell us where you're from and about your musical training and your influences and such.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Jeanne. I'm from France. I grew up in the south of France near Nice. And at a very young age, I actually moved to Paris and I studied at the Conservatoire de Paris, where I obtained my bachelor back in 2012. So it's been a little while. And then I moved to Canada in Montreal. I moved there and stayed 7 years. During that very long time, I did my master in piano performance. I also did an artist diploma, and because I am a very curious person, I also did a master in French literature.
Oh, wonderful. Was this at McGill or Université de Montréal or where?
Université de Montréal, yes. Yeah.
Really?
And then I moved in 2019 in San Francisco, and I did a PhD at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. And well, last year COVID was here, so I just basically worked full time, dig into female composer repertoire, and here I am now in Texas. I am DMA student since September.
Aha. At which university?
University of Texas at Austin.
Okay, right. Oh, nice. Excellent. Um, I've been watching Queer Eye from Austin lately, and it seems like a pretty nice city. I
It is,
didn't really
yeah.
water of it. It seems like it's
No. Well, it's a very nice city. It's very green in the way that there are a lot of parks. I mean, I like to hike a lot, so usually on
okay.
Saturday I go to hike. It's very easy. It's also an American city in the way that the commute transportation is not very reliable. So, but I mean, it's a very fun city. I actually find that the atmosphere is kind of the same of Montreal. So I mean, I loved when I was in Montreal, and it's nice to be back in that kind of atmosphere. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Montreal as well. Um, yeah, I was in Texas for the first time in my life just before everything stopped, doing some concerts, and yeah, it's a very unique place, but
Yeah.
I liked it. Yeah. So your doctoral studies, that's focusing on Mel Bonis, or tell us about how your program is set up for you.
Yes. So my main focus is not on Mel Bonis specifically. She's part of a bigger project I would love to explore. I mean, I'm very interested in any kind of female composer repertoire, especially French female composers. From the Belle Époque period, so 1870 to 1914, so World War One. Um, it appeared that for some reason I applied to some conferences and I was working some Mel Bonis repertoire at the same time. So I was like, okay, well, let's do that. It's just easier. And I think we'll talk about it later, but there are some pieces from her that I'm a huge fan. And so, yes, this year as Mel Bonis has been my main focus for like very nice coincidences. But I'm not sure yet on which composer I will exactly write my paper. It might be several of them. It might be just something a little bit more social or political. I don't know yet, but yeah, that's the way it is right now.
Exploring, yeah. So what other, if you were to focus in on one or a few composers, who else are you exploring right now?
Oh, that's a tough question. I am so I also work on Lily and Nadia, actually, the Boulanger sisters. And I mean, I dig a little bit into Cécile Chaminade repertoire. And recently, I have been very interested in Elsa Barren. She was a French composer in the 20th century, beginning of the 20th century. And I don't remember exactly when she died, but around the 70s, 80s.
Wow.
She won the Prix de Rome, and it is just super hard to find sources or scores about her, but there are some recordings and I listen to her music and it's really amazing. So now I'm trying to have the scores and to explore her. I'm also very interested in Henriette Bosmans. She was a Dutch composer. She wrote some wonderful pieces, especially in chamber music. Her cello sonata is amazing. And she also composed several, I mean, actually not several, but like a lot of melodies for voice and piano. Including one that is quoting the French anthems, La Marseillaise. So it is actually very fun, and the music is amazing. Yeah, so there is her, and recently also Marguerite Canal, which is also very, I mean, I have troubles to find the scores. That's the main issue.
Two of her pieces. There's a suite of 3 pieces. I forget what it's called. There's a nocturne and a prelude and one other, and I can't get the third one, but they're all in one. Do you know that group of pieces?
No, I don't remember because recently I've been focusing on melody for voice and piano, so that was my main focus because I'm in a class for harp songs. But yeah, I have also, I mean, I read a bit about her, and I know she wrote a ton of music for piano too. So
Yeah, the nocturne is, when I encountered that piece, it was like I'd met my piece. I just fell in love. So anyways, fantastic composer, but yeah, as far as her music, oh, challenge. So what is it about Mel Bonis that has sort of prompted you to do kind of more in depth?
I mean, I cut for a second. Could you repeat?
Yeah. What is it about Mel Bonis that draws you in to explore her more deeply?
Well, that's a funny story, actually. I have a very good friend. She was part of this amazing project in France 2 years ago when they did an advent calendar. And every day was a short piece by a female composer, very international. And the music presenting the calendar, I mean, every day was this song that I love. And then I was, well, I don't know this song, but it is so beautiful. I need to find out. And that's how I met Mel Bonis, because it was actually Desdemona for from a Femme de Légende set. And so that's how I found it. And then I listened to the whole set and I was like, oh my God, I have to play that. It's so beautiful. It's so colorful, impressionistic.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I actually met Mel Bonis about 2 years ago.
Wow. Okay. So also so pianistic, right?
Yes.
Yes. Trying to play. So that was your entryway, and also fairly recently, then 2 years ago. It's incredible.
Yeah.
All the discoveries we've been making lately.
I was a little bit ashamed to, well, I've waited until 2 years ago to meet some of these composers. Most of them I have never heard of them, and I was, wow, that's incredible. That's not possible. I mean, I'm almost 30. How is it possible that I haven't heard of beautiful music? And since then I'm trying to catch to catch up. Yeah.
Well, I'm more than 30, and yeah, and so long not meeting these people until maybe 3 years ago. So, but even growing up in France, Mel Bonis, was she known to you?
No,
Or,
absolutely not. I think there is a weird social thing happening in the end of the 20th century for some reason. Um, my mom, for example, is a music teacher, and she knew Germaine Taillefer, and she was a young kid. She actually played Germaine Taillefer pieces. My first teacher, my first piano teacher, also knew Mel Bonis, and she was giving it to her first students. And for some reason, my generation, we haven't heard of all of these composers. And yet Mel Bonis, I know, was very popular because of all her pedagogical work, which is huge and very well written. But no, I haven't. I mean, it was not popular at all for some reason.
isn't that just stunning? Wow. Even in France, there was one piece we have this Canadian system of conservatory exams, and the best known conservatory until recently is the Royal Conservatory, and so they have books for every grade. And I know that decades ago I came across the piece in the grade 2 book. It was translated to the sewing machine.
Yes.
And there it was in the book, and I taught it, and I didn't know. I didn't know Mel was not a boy. I didn't know that Mel Bonis. It was just, oh, some guy, and there's one piece by him. Okay, well, that's a nice piece. So, oh, incredible. Incredible. Not even any notes in the book, in the repertoire book about, yeah, this was a woman and she was amazing. And her life was amazing.
Yes, it's very fascinating the way she handled being between the family and women roles for the time, and and later she came back to composition, and especially wrote for kids when she was a grandmother. So
Later in life, okay. I was thinking that that someone should write an opera called Mel. Show it at the Met. Mel at the Met. How about that? So if we have this opera, somebody, come on, write it. What would you put in that opera? Like, what stories from her life, or what aspects of her would you build on? Not that you will write.
Yeah. I think the first meeting with César Franck would be very interesting because he actually helped her enter the Conservatoire de Paris, and she then was in his class. So I think that would be very interesting. And then I would love to know more about her life in the Conservatoire, because lots of things happened, and she was in the same class as Debussy, and I'm sure it's a fascinating period. So that's and. I have this ideas. I mean, the Belle Époque really fascinates me, and I have this pictures in my head of her later in her life with all of her grandchildren, and so yeah, I would love to have like the end of the opera like that, like showing that she's a happy woman after all, and she's still doing music, and she's transmitting this music to the next generations. So yeah, that kind of thing. But maybe you have some other thoughts.
That's a good idea. Maybe we could start. The opening scene is her as a grandmother with her grandchildren, telling them about her life, and then we go flashbacks to all this about that.
I love that. That's a wonderful idea.
Yeah. So, her childhood, where she wasn't really. She taught herself at first, right? She wasn't.
Yeah. Her parents' family was very, very traditional, so they were like Christian people, and they would like her to follow the rules for a woman at this time, which was between. I mean, the French government was evolving one step forward, three steps backward, and then it was very in between for a long time. And Mel Bonis grew up in that atmosphere, and so she taught herself indeed. And then a friend of the family actually helped her having real piano lessons, saying to the parents, you know what, it could be a very nice asset for your daughter to actually play the piano in her marriage later. So you actually join her, and you should actually, let her have private lessons. And so that's how she could slowly get into this path. And then I think our teacher actually encouraged her to meet César Franck, and then she entered the Conservatoire de Paris. And yeah.
What, 15 or 16 at that time?
When she entered the Conservatoire de Paris?
Yeah. Was it?
Yeah, maybe 17 or 18. Yeah, I remember she was not super young, but
Okay.
kind of.
Yeah. And then she met a poet there.
Yeah, she met a singer.
A singer, but he wrote poetry or songs as well, I think.
That's possible. I actually don't know that, but that's very possible. But he was a singer. It was not a super great student. It was not all seen by Mel Bonis' parents. So when he asked her to marry her, they said no. And that's because the story started, they had to put her out of the conservatoire, unfortunately.
Wow, yeah. And then the parents made her marry a businessman.
Albert de Manche.
Yeah. And
which already had two wives before her. He was way older than her, I think 20 years older than her. And so she had to set aside her pianistic career because she had to take care of Albert de Manche children from his previous marriages. I think he was not a bad man at all. He was a nice guy, but just not at all into music. Just indifferent to what she was doing. So it's not that he didn't support her, it's just that he didn't know anything about it. And so, yeah. And so for the parents, marrying Albert de Manche was a success for Mel Bonis because she would upgrade her social class, because the family was very lower middle class, and now she was in the upper class of the society, and that's what the parents actually wanted for her, for their daughter. And so she slowly so she raised the kids. She also had children on her own, and she kept being involved in the music field because she joined in 1899. She joined the Société des Compositeurs in France, and her pieces were performed through that society quite a lot. But I mean, it was only her fight. She didn't receive any support from her family.
Oh, it's incredible. Jeanne, I'm noticing like what you're saying is coming through clearly, but my image of you is a spinning wheel, and I'm wondering if my phone has switched networks. Can I just see what happens if I go to my settings to change the network? And if I lose you, I'll invite you in again.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Sorry, there's this weird thing that's happening with the network here. Okay, let's see if I lose you completely or what happens. We're still there.
We're back.
Okay, sorry about that. Oh, so annoying. Yeah, so she was active, yet she was suppressed from really doing what she wanted to do. And then he died, I guess, and or did she?
I don't remember when, but he was older than her, so and she lived quite a long time.
Right.
But I can't actually remember when.
Either. But all of those scenes will be in the opera. that we're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also like this, her singer, poet, love of her life kind of continued to be in her life. That was...
Yes, that's right. Didn't she had like an illegitimate kid with him, and then a daughter, I think, Madeleine.
Yeah.
And the daughter kind of felt in love with the child of him, and she finally had to tell her the truth. I think something like that. I don't exactly remember, but
opera with stuff like that. Like that's just that's not normal life. Anyway, so but I was going to say, you touched on the idea that she later in life especially wrote more pedagogical stuff. I mean, she wrote incredible concert pieces, and the Desdemona that you mentioned, and your Mélisande, that people, if you want to hear beautiful playing by Jeanne, we posted a video in our Friends video project that Jeanne contributed to, a performance of Mélisande. Oh, so beautiful. It was we posted it in late September. So look it up, or look in the Mel Bonis playlist and listen to this woman play that piece. It's so gorgeous. So gorgeous. The piece is gorgeous, your playing is gorgeous, and we again for it. But she wrote so much music for various configurations, chamber music and you name it. But this fact that she wrote for elementary level students, you said that happened when she was a grandmother.
Later.
Yeah.
I think the first album she wrote is from 1912. She was more than at that time. And then it's followed by a lot of albums for very, very young pianists, like her album Pour les tout petits, on which I worked a lot, a few months, is very for the first year and a half of piano studies, and it's just an amazing gift for her as piano teacher because it's so well written and the pieces are so beautiful. So yeah, and she also
that sewing machine piece.
Yes, exactly. And
2 or 3 of those pieces and put them in our piano music she wrote anthology.
Oh, nice! I'm so glad. And I think
it was hard to find the music.
For that, actually, not that hard. I could find some versions on internet. And it's still edited. So when I came back to Paris during Christmas, I actually bought the real score, the paper score. So I got it.
Okay.
Yes, but I do know that 2 of her children albums, they are not edited at all, unfortunately. So
they don't in print.
No, hopefully someday I will be able to see the manuscripts. I would be very curious because I think one of them is also for very young kids.
Wow.
And just to have more pieces to give to my students.
Yeah. Is that in Paris, in the library?
I'm not sure if they are in Paris. I need to check that. Her actually great-granddaughter is still alive, and she was in charge of editing all of Mel Bonis' pieces. I mean, good at least. And so that's why Mel Bonis' music, we can find it quite easily. There is one editor that is distributing the scores. It's a German one, which is called Furore, I think, F-R-O-R-E. And there are 11 or 12 volumes of Mel Bonis' music, including chamber music, including the kids' music, and also piano music, of course.
So just to touch on then, this, did you say great-granddaughter?
Yes.
Is that the person that runs that website, Mel Bonis?
Yeah, it's same. I have been in touch with her recently. She's so nice. She is very interested of anyone that does events or concerts about Mel Bonis. So when I told her, yeah, I'm writing to you, I don't know what you would think about, but I'm doing some conferences this year on Mel Bonis, and she was, oh yes, please let us know. We want to share that on our website. So yeah, she's very supportive.
Beautiful. Well, that's so good.
I cut again.
So that's a real resource. Yeah, bad internet. But that's a really helpful resource, and to know that, really incredible. Yeah, beautiful. So now going back to just further on the elementary student repertoire. So we've come across in IMSLP the two, what are they called? Albums pour les enfants, or I can't remember what they're called.
I think.
And then there's the one, Tout Petit, which we mentioned, and you know of others. Do you have them in hand? Like, have you?
Oh, I think, but I know there are about 60 pieces for children. She wrote, but after it's more like 3/4 year of piano.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I don't exactly remember the name, but I know everything is listed on the Mel Bonis website, which is a great resource.
Fantastic. So then going back to more concert level repertoire, which you also have explored quite a bit. Do you have favorites, or are they just all your favorite? What pieces stand out to you?
Well, they all are my favorites, of course, but I have a particular affinity with Femme de Légende because there is this female transmission. I mean, a woman which is composing about legendary other women, and it's really wonderful music. So yeah, I have been across the whole volume.
Just to translate that for people who don't do French, Légendes de femmes, legends of women.
Women of legends.
Women of legend. Oh yeah, it's the other.
Yes.
Is that like 6?
There are 7 of them. What is interesting is that actually Mel Bonis didn't put all of those short pieces in one album. It's the work of her great-granddaughter who decided to just bring together those 7 pieces. And I think 3, maybe 4, but 3 of them I'm sure have an orchestral version.
Okay. But originally for piano?
Yes, I think so, yes.
Yeah. And anything else that you would recommend that we explore?
I would love to play the 2 quartets with piano. I mean, it's not just piano solo, of course, it's chamber music, but oh my God, that's such high level of musicality and expressivity again. Yeah, that's one of my goals when I'm here and still a student. I would love to play the Mel Bonis quartets.
Brilliant, yeah. I mean, shouldn't they be standard repertoire, really?
Yes.
No?
Yes, and you know that was a funny thing because the first lesson I had with my teacher here, which is a very, very nice person and very supportive person, I brought him the Mel Bonis pieces, and he didn't know her and he didn't know the pieces, obviously, and was, oh my God, this is very beautiful. You have to do something about it. You have to like present that to the US because nobody knows that. And so far, whenever I have played those pieces, the reception has been very good, and so this is exciting.
Well, I mean, judging from Mélisande that you shared with us, I mean, you're so at home with that style. Like that's your piece. Like, so tell that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you own it. So, I would love to hear more from you. What about a recording or?
I would love to. It's always a matter of finding where, when, the costs. I mean, everything. But this is in the box in my head, and I'm keeping that for later. But yeah.
Good. And you say you contributing to some conferences. Is that anything that we could attend online or anything like that?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes. So in January, I presented a lecture for the MTNA symposium, college symposium, and it was about the album Pour les tout petits. It was very pedagogical lecture basically, and I presented 4 pieces. I chose 4 pieces from the set and highlight the main aspect and basically why our kids, our students should play this.
Oh,
And,
cool. What pieces were they?
so I talk about the sewing machine, raindrops, madrigal, and the last one. Oh, I don't remember the last one, but it's because my students, I am also giving them some pieces. I'm sorry, but I could check. I could send you exactly. And so this lecture is available online, and I believe the Mel Bonis website will also share it. So
Yes.
this is great. Yeah. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to go to the CMS South Central Conference. And I will do a lecture recital on Mel Bonis' Femme de Légende. The first 4 pieces, Mélisande, Desdemona, Ophelia, and Viviane. And I'm looking forward to it, obviously. And the fun fact about that, I think there is another person presenting a lecture about Mel Bonis, actually. So I'm very excited to hear what this person has to say and who is she, and it's going to be interesting.
Ah, that's good. Mel Bonis has finally come to America. That's good. I mean, she was a superstar in her time, right?
Yes, absolutely.
She was very successful despite all the challenges of her life.
Yes, she was very supported by her peers, actually. The composer from the same time, they really respect her. And I have crossed through several books, and they all have the same they all say the same thing. I mean, female composers were extremely respected, and Nadia Boulanger was, Lily Boulanger was, later Elsa Baren, which I talked to you about earlier. So it's a very matter of why history in the 20th century, in the second part of the 20th century, suddenly erased those women from the music history. But I mean, things happen now, and I can see there are some changes. So yes, let's keep going. The good job.
About that, for sure. Yeah. So when you said it was easy to find those scores, just to reiterate, you're finding them some on Furore.
Mm-hmm.
It's German, so how would I say Furore? Verlag, and then some on Mel Bonis. Does melbonis.com sell scores?
They don't sell scores, but there is the full list of it, and they put the link where we can purchase it. And they have just the score window where you can just click, and it will direct you to the website that sells the score. So amazing.
Everything is there, linked somehow?
Yes, and whenever it's not here, there is a note saying that this score hasn't been edited yet. Yeah.
In manuscript or first?
Yeah. Regarding the manuscript, I will keep talking with our granddaughter, Christine Gelio, to see if there is a possibility for me, but I'm not sure exactly where they are. I'm not sure they are even in Paris.
Yeah. Okay. But she was born, lived, and died in Paris, right?
Yes.
And her great granddaughter is also in Paris or elsewhere in France?
No, she's in Paris. Yeah.
Ah, Would love to travel there again. Wow. I think the last time was now about 5 years ago. It's so long. Um, so you mentioned these other women. Those women, you seem to have a big connection with Henriette Boesmans.
Mm-hmm.
And any others that you are very...
The Boulanger sisters are really my it's yeah, I work on them during the first semester here, and their life were so unbelievable, both of them, for so many different reasons. And I find so interesting that they could still have this special bond between them and have completely different life and lifestyle. And I mean, the destiny of Lily was dramatic, of course, and now I was also had a dramatic life in a way, because I mean, she stopped composing. She thought she was extremely bad at it when she wasn't. But yeah, there is like a contrast between them, which is very interesting.
Mm. And some of Lily's pieces, they exist, but they feel maybe not finished. For example, that is it Prelude in on
Oh,
DS?
the prelude for piano, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
a few times I looked at it, I was like, cool ideas. I don't really get it. And then one day I just thought, I don't care. I'm just gonna do this. There's not a lot of markings, right? So it's
yeah.
like, what do I do with it? And then I just decided I'm going to just follow what I feel.
Yeah.
And it just made it make so much more sense to me. But on the other hand, it still does have this feeling of that it might have been a sketch yet.
Yeah. Yes, that's what everybody says, that the prelude is unfinished, and I believe it too. There isn't any dynamic markings or articulation markings. Basically, 2 or 3 pages. It's very short. I think the manuscript is available on IMSLP. I mean, and there is also the version like printed, but it's very, very simple.
Yeah.
But she also wrote the theme and variations for piano, which is an amazing piece that I play here. And she also has 3 other piano pieces, Portage, d'un jardin triste, d'un jardin clair, something like that. lots of the jardin, lots of gardens. But those pieces were part of, I mean, it's a transcription for piano. The first version was for maybe violin or flute and piano, something like that. And then she transcribed it for piano.
They all have a feeling of that they could easily be orchestrated. Like I hear the orchestra when I play them.
Yes, absolutely.
So much color. Yeah, I wish there were more pieces. But yes, that theme and variations is also in our friend's video project. Our good friend Molly McCann, otherwise known as Hensel Pushers, did that for us. I can't remember. It's quite early in our project, so maybe last spring of 21, something like that. So right there. Sorry.
I need to go and listen to it for sure.
Yeah, it's incredible piece. I think I need to go and play it too. Like, yeah, I just haven't sat down on that. So lots of exciting information here. Is there anything else in particular that you want to share? Or anything?
I would every piano teacher, and actually not just piano, but every music teacher will start to rethink what kind of repertoire we give to our students. Even if I totally understand we need to learn the standard repertoire because it's required pretty much everywhere, and that's necessary, of course. know how to play Bach preludes and fugue. We need to know to play a Beethoven sonata. And I mean, I'm also working on very standard repertoire. But I hope in the next years and next generations we'll have higher conscience of what exactly music means, and that they will make music become more universal, because after all it's a universal language. But in that case we need to include more people, and of course women composers, but also all of those minorities and ethnicities which I am just less involved in right now, but which is absolutely crucial. We need to open our minds.
Yeah, definitely. And expand what we think of as standard repertoire.
Yes, also, yeah.
Which doesn't mean we have to kick anybody out of standard repertoire. Expand it. And there's so much richness in all these things that we've been discovering in the last few years. Although I feel quite late to the party and embarrassed about that. It's every day is like, oh, I didn't know about that. Oh, that. Oh, okay. Every day it's just something new, which has been there all the time, but.
But you know, I actually came across your first recording of women composers around 2 years ago too, and so I discovered so many pieces from your album. And at that time I didn't know you, and I was thinking, who is this woman? Because she knows a lot and I have to be in touch with her. And then, I mean, I discovered you, and you're not that far. I mean, we are talking right now. So just letting you know that you also played a role in my discovery of this word. So also, please keep doing your work on that. It's very, very.
Thank you. Oh, that's so lovely to hear, especially from this place of extreme frustration about my En Pleine Lumière project. That album is the first of 6, but the other 5 are sitting here waiting for the world to open up, and it's what, 3 years of waiting now. Well, 2.5 years of waiting, and postponing the recording dates, postponing. But hopefully volumes 2 and 3 are on my list of things to record this spring, summer. So let's hope it works this time. I don't want to have to postpone or cancel again. Anyway, so thank you for mentioning that. That's incredible that you came across that. Because I'm not the best at marketing it. Anyway.
Well, of course, with me, probably I was looking for some recording of a piece, and you were the only one recording it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that gives me a little fuel to like push for this next set of. So my next volume 2 is composers born between 1870 and 1900, and then volume 3 is 1900 to 1930 or so. And I have so much lovely stuff programmed. I can't wait to record it. Anyway, so well, if people want to get in touch with you or find out more about you, where do they find you?
So on Instagram, I'm here. Even if I don't post much, I'm here. And I have also my YouTube channel. You can find me under my name, Jeanne Hourez. And I also have my website. So that would be it for now.
JeanneHourez.com?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Great. And I liked how when I first asked you, how do I pronounce your last name? How you said it's like Boulez. Because
yes.
French, you could say, you know, sometimes EZ at the end is just A. Like
yeah.
Boulez. So people, you can remember Hourez, same as Boulez.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I so enjoyed talking with you, and just what we share about this composer in particular. She's so exciting. I know how my colleague Erica, who couldn't be here today, she also is so excited about Mel Bonis, one Saturday a month or two ago, I don't know how many pieces she recorded. She went to her concert hall where she records, and that day sent me just like video after video after video to edit, to put together for our YouTube channel. They've not all been posted yet because I didn't think it would be a good idea to post 7 or 8 Mel Bonis videos in a row, although we did a few. So there's still more coming because Erica she just went crazy with Mel Bonis, which is so understandable. Fantastic music. So again, thank you, and thank you for joining in, everybody who's been here for part of the time or all of the time. And next week, I should just say, we have this gentleman named Philip Sear, who's from the UK, and he has a really quite successful YouTube channel where he discovers all kinds of pieces that, and he's been doing it for quite some time, pieces by composers that, you know, may not otherwise be known, many of them women. So that might be interesting. And I have a list somewhere on a recent post of the next several weeks of Friday chats at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So check it out. And this, we'll put this also on our YouTube channel, Jeanne, so I hope that's okay with you, and
Yes.
people can find it. It might take a couple of days. Sometimes it doesn't translate.
No worries.
So we get there when we get there, but hopefully by the end of the weekend.
Well,
thank you. Thank you
so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to meet you finally, and how we'll stay in touch. And
I'm so glad we're connected. Okay, ciao everyone. Thank you.
Bye.